Hello and welcome to the second part of this boost contrast to add impact video tutorial. You should now have made all of your basic enhancements within Adobe Camera Raw, and to open up the file within Photoshop Elements, all you need to do is click Open Image down in the bottom right hand corner, and a few seconds later it should open up within Photoshop Elements. Now to start with the black and white conversion, and the first thing we're going to do is create a color fill layer. So if we go to our adjustment layers, click solid color, and what we're looking for is a mid-tone grey. So make sure that H is set to 0, S is also set to 0, and B is set to 50%. And there we have a perfect mid-tone grey. Just click OK, and that'll apply that to the layer. Now obviously that's not too good because we can't see the image, so we need to use a layer blending mode to show through the detail of the picture. And what we want to do is use this colour fill layer to create our black and white image. So if we click on our layer blending modes, select hue, and that way the colour fill layer filters out all of the colour information from the image. Now to start playing around with those tones, so if we click back onto our background layer, and what we want to do is create a hue saturation layer. So if we click on our adjustment layers, select hue saturation, and that'll bring up the hue saturation dialog window. Now what we're going to do is pinpoint each of the colours within the picture, and then adjust the tone of that colour by using the saturation slider. So if I use the edit menu to select my first colour, which is red, and I want to increase its saturation to 45. And as I do that, you can just see the cliffs and some of the foreground reflections are actually lightening up slightly. Now go to the next colour down, which is yellow, and I want to increase that to 15, and again you can see the effect as I drag that over to the far right. It's really lightening up the cliff and also the cliff reflection in those pools in the foreground. I want to take that to about plus 15. Now down to cyans, and I want to boost that right up to about 70, and you can see the effect of the clouds just starting, or the sky behind the clouds just starting to darken. And then if I take it to blue and increase that to about 85, you see that darken a little bit further and some of the detail within that pool of water in the foreground. To finalise my adjustments, all I need to do is just click OK. Then if I want to see the difference that that hue saturation and that pinpointed colour adjustment has made to the image, just click the visibility eye on the left of the layer palette just to switch that on and off. And you can see it's had an almost polarising effect on the water in the foreground and also darkening the detail in the sky. To help get that really high contrast look, I'm just going to use a levels layer. So if we go to my adjustment layers, down to levels, and the first thing I want to do is just to increase the contrast by just boosting the shadows. So if I move the shadow slider up to about 10, and I'm going to reduce the highlight slider right down to about 240. And this will start to clip some of the highlights in the waves there, but we can use a black brush within the mask just to pull those back. So when I'm happy with that, just preview before and after, and we really see that contrast building. Just click OK to apply that. Now if I select my brush, make sure that I've got black as my foreground colour. I've got a nice soft brush selected, and I've taken my opacity down to about 20%. Then just make sure that I click into my layer mask. Adjust the brush size by using the left and right square bracket tools. And then I'm just going to paint over some of that clipped highlight on the tops of the waves there, and I'll just bring back a little bit of that detail. Now that I'm finished with the first stage of the conversion, what I want to do is just flatten down those layers, and then I want to really boost the mid-tones within the image. So if I go to my layer options, select flatten image, and we've now just got our background layer. Go up to enhance, adjust colour, and adjust colour curves. Okay, so taking a look at the four sliders, what I want to do is adjust these to increase the midtones and also increase the overall contrast of the image. So starting with the adjust highlight sliders, I just want to reduce that by about half a square, and as I move this slider we'll actually see the point at the top here start to move. So if I reduce that right down, we can see the highlights are reducing in tone, and I want to actually just reduce that by just about half a square. Now if I go to the mid-tone contrast, I want to just increase that by about 1 square, and you really see the mid-tone sort of kicking out now. And finally, if I have a look at the shadows, I just want to reduce that by about 1 square as well. So it's sort of really boosting the contrast within the image. And we can see the before and the after, and we're already on the right hand side getting a much more dramatic picture. So to apply that change, just click OK, and that'll take you back into Photoshop. Now really to finish off the picture, all we need to do is a little bit of dodge and burn. So click on to, first of all, the dodge tool. We're going to make sure that we've got our range as highlights, our exposure right down at 5%, and then we can very quickly just pick out a few of those highlights. So really increasing the lightness of those clouds, really getting the cloud detail to pick out against that dark sky. And we'll also do that a little bit on these pebbles here on the foreground, and just across some of these rocks, just to really pick them out and make them strong in contrast against the rest of the image. Once we've done a little bit of dodging with the highlights, quickly switch over to the burn tool, and with the burn tool just increase the brush size using the square bracket tools. So make sure that you've got your range as shadows, take your exposure down to about 5%, and then we can just very quickly just burn in a little bit around the sky. So we're really darkening it down, giving it a little bit more impact. And I'll also just on the tips of those waves just to really get those highlights coming out. So once we're happy with our dodging and burning, our final aspect is just sharpening. So if we go up to enhance, adjust sharpness, and here we've got quite a sharp image, and we can just see a little bit of haloing going on. So I want to take the amount down to about 50, and our radius probably right down to about 1. And 1's got quite a nice result without any sort of pixelation or haloing going on. So once we're happy with that, we can just click OK, making sure we've got more refined ticked. And a few seconds later, we have our final high contrast black and white landscape.